Excellent!
What's up everyone, welcome to my Computex 2015 coverage. I am here in Taipei, Taiwan. Okay, I'm not actually in Taipei, Taiwan. I'm still in Los Angeles. I've actually been invited to a special press event by NVIDIA, so I'm gonna head inside. If you're watching this video, it means it's June 1st, and I am now allowed to present this information. I have no idea what they're gonna be showing off inside, so I'm gonna head in, but first, before I do that, big thank you to my sponsors for Computex 2015. I would not be here without them, or in Taiwan, which is where I'll be when you watch this video. That is, anyway, MSI, Cooler Master, as well as G-Skill. Big thanks to them, and on with the show. After successfully passing through several security checkpoints and submitting myself to a full-body cavity search, I was led to a small, dank room where I met the mysterious and elusive Brian as well as Tom from NVIDIA. They laid some knowledge on me, which I will now share with you guys because I now know what the knowledge is and I can do that. Now, of course, the biggest news is the GeForce GTX 980 Ti. It has been confirmed, and it is going to be selling for $650 MSRP. Along with the 980 Ti launch comes a GTX 980 price drop. That's going all the way down to $500. So you guys, if you're interested in 980, can get that for a few less dollars. But a lot of the information they talked about was somewhat related to the 980 Ti. We're going to talk a little bit about G-Sync, a little bit about DirectX 12, a little bit about virtual reality, and then I'll be coming back to the 980 Ti at the end because I have specs that I can share with you guys. So let's start off by talking a little bit about G-Sync. First off, LCD monitors have something called overdrive that they do with their pixels. They try to push a pixel towards a specific color more aggressively than they actually need to in order to get to that color by the time the monitor is going to refresh. NVIDIA is working on something called variable overdrive. This will predict the next pixel refresh so that it can be refreshed in a quicker manner in order to work within the limitations of the variable refresh rate that G-Sync actually does. Now, this doesn't make sense. Basically, what they're trying to do is make things faster for you and also make sure that as the LCD is refreshing, it can actually get you the proper colors. Now, variable overdrive will predict the next pixel refresh time, it will apply the overdrive accordingly, and it basically solves that problem, which is one of the limitations of variable refresh rate monitors. Another thing that they mentioned was that G-Sync actually does not have a performance impact, so bear that in mind. That's been a common misconception. People think that when you turn on V-Sync, you get less performance. That's actually not true. Another cool thing that they have with G-Sync is windowed mode G-Sync, which is something that folks have been asking for, at least according to NVIDIA. I didn't quite see the practical purpose for it, but when I asked them, they said, well, it's something that people asked for, so we did that. After using multiple games, whatever window has focus will refresh the monitor accordingly. So G-Sync will work with whatever game you're running. So if you like to run multiple games in windowed mode, this update's for you, I suppose. Another cool thing is that G-Sync is now going to be coming to more notebooks. The 900M series notebooks will support G-Sync, and NVIDIA actually wants to make G-Sync a standard on all of their gaming notebooks, which I think makes a lot of sense. Another nice thing about G-Sync is that no scaler is needed since the scaling takes place within the G-Sync module chip. That's another benefit. And NVIDIA is going to be releasing, or they are now working on, the first 75Hz gaming notebook displays. Let's move on though. Let's talk a little bit about DirectX 12 since the 980 Ti is fully compatible with DirectX 12. There's actually a few different levels of DirectX 12. There's 12.0, which has cool features like volume tiled resources. That sounds very complicated, but basically you have what would traditionally be rendered a full texture. You have a tiled texture, which is breaking that texture up so it doesn't have to render the entire texture. And then volume tiled textures is a new thing which adds 3 dimensions to it. So you can break up a texture and you can only render the textures that are needed to render, and that's going to save you some GPU compute time. There's also a feature with DirectX 12 _0, or I'm sorry, DirectX 12 _1 called conservative raster. Anytime that it's doing 3D operations along the 3D pipeline as it's rendering your game, at a certain point it needs to rasterize the image, which is basically to take 3D polygons and make it into actual pixels. Conservative raster will basically, it renders outside of the lines rather than inside of the lines, as you can maybe see in this image, and this is going to lead to much better shadow reproduction. So especially when you're using ray tracing and ray traced shadows, you'll notice much cleaner shadows, and that's just one of the cool features of DirectX 12 that can give you better image quality without necessarily hurting your performance. Moving on to some VR news, NVIDIA has been working a lot on VR, and if you guys are interested in VR, well, you should keep watching this video, I suppose. Alright, so let's talk about their VR optics system, which is using something called multi-res shading. Now, the traditional or older method of rendering when you're using VR, because you need a different image for each eye, and you also need to warp the edges of the image in order for it to look properly, since the image is actually so close to your eye. Now, the old method would render the standard image, and it would warp the edges of the image in order to make it appear properly when you're actually looking at it through VR goggles. Now, what the new method is called is multi-res shading, and what they're actually doing is they're splitting the screen up into a bunch of different viewports. That's what NVIDIA calls them. And then with the center viewport, there's no warping needed, but around the edges, they will actually warp those individually. This is going to solve the problem that the older method had, which was that it was rendering pixels that you didn't actually see on the screen. It does it in real time, so it does it multi-res shading actually renders this whole thing in one single pass. It doesn't need to go through it multiple times. The end result is about 1.3 times to 2 times the pixel shader performance. So if you're a VR fan, that's going to be something that you're definitely going to be interested in. Their VR stuff that NVIDIA is working on, by the way, is part of their GameWorks SDK for VR game developers. And I'm sure that's something that a lot of folks are going to be looking forward to as we move towards a proliferation of VR devices that are actually coming out to the market now. Thank God. But I know the biggest news that you guys are probably most interested in is confirmation of the price point, which I already told you for the GTX 980 Ti. That's $650, as well as the specifications. Let me run down those for you right now. You'll find that it is extremely similar to the GeForce to the Titan X, which NVIDIA already launched, except it has 6 gigs of video memory instead of 12 gigs of video memory. Other specs include 6 graphics processing clusters, 22 streaming multiprocessors, a total of 2,816 CUDA cores, 176 texture units, 96 ROPs. It's going to run at a base clock of 1,000 megahertz, and it will get a boost clock of about 1,075. In my experience, usually the GPUs scale beyond that and go even faster, and of course this is going to be overclockable as well. The memory clock is 3,505 megahertz, or about 7,010 effective. Memory data rate is 7 gigabits per second, and it's got a 384-bit memory interface. I already mentioned 6 gigs, or 6,144 megabytes of GDDR5 memory. Memory bandwidth of 336.5 gigabytes per second. It's still built on the 28 nanometer manufacturing process. No surprise there. 8 billion transistors, since this is the big Maxwell versus the smaller Maxwell that we saw with the GTX 980. 3 display port outs, an HDMI and a dual link DVI. Same form factor, dual slot, and the same basic design that we've seen NVIDIA use since going all the way back to the original GTX Titan. But the recommended power supply for this is 600 watts. It's got a 250 watt TDP, so again, sticking with the same TDP as the Titan X, and a thermal threshold of 92 degrees Celsius. And that is all the specifications that I have about the GeForce GTX 980 Ti. Now, there's other folks who have had this card for the past, say, a week plus, and they've been testing it. I haven't been able to do that because I've been in China, but I believe I'm going to be getting one as soon as I get back, and I'll be doing some additional testing. So if you're watching this video, let me know in the comments what kind of tests, what kind of demonstrations maybe you want to see with the GeForce GTX 980 Ti, and I will see if I can do that. In the meantime, though, thank you for watching this video. This is my first Computex 2015 video. Another big thank you to all of my sponsors, MSI, Cooler Master, as well as G-Skill. And by the way, I'm in Taiwan now. I know, at the beginning of this video, I was in Los Angeles. It's crazy how fast I went from there to here. If you don't believe me, it probably doesn't look all that special right now. It's because I'm in my hotel room. Okay, here, I'll show you guys. Yep, see, that's Taiwan out there. It's getting dark. It's actually Sunday right now, but I think I'm gonna go meet up with the guys from Tech Syndicate. So guys, if you're watching this video, hit the like button and stay tuned for more coverage from Computex 2015. Paul out.